You're listening to the Sales Success Stories podcast, where we deconstruct world-class sales performers to provide insights and strategies to help you improve. To learn more, visit us at top1.fm. Here's your host, Scott Ingram.
Today on the Sales Success Stories podcast, my guest is Kevin Walkup, who has been the Account Executive of the Year for the last 2 years running at SalesLoft. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. So this episode is sponsored by a solution that actually integrates with SalesLoft, and that is our friends at Vidyard GoVideo. I'll talk about them a little bit more in a bit, but if you just can't wait another minute to improve your email engagement, then go over to top1.fm/V and download their free Chrome plugin. You'll also likely be seeing Vidyard at our Sales Success Summit here in Austin, May 7th and 8th. And if you haven't yet heard what that's all about, please go back to the last episode. I conveniently named that Sales Success Summit, and you can get all the details and then head over to top1summit.com and register today. So Kevin, let's start like we always do with the top 3 things that you believe have allowed you to become the top seller at SalesLoft the last couple of years. What are those?
It's a great question. It's kind of all across the board. I think the number one thing that I like to focus on, and this is something that I learned from Ralph Barcy years ago, is treat everybody that you're doing business with like they have a 10 on their head. You never know how that relationship is going to unfold, whether it's unfolding in that deal cycle or down the road. Those referrals are going to come back to you. Those people are going to remember you. Make sure you're treating everybody like they have a 10 on their head. And kind of spinning into that, the second piece would be make sure you're always leveraging your network, always asking for referrals. Referrals are going to be the heart of your business. It's not a cold lead, it's a warm introduction to somebody that could potentially leverage whatever it is that you're selling. So network and referrals are huge, a huge number 2 for me.
Yeah, so Kevin, along those lines, I mean, is that a part of your process? Like, is there a specific point that you're trying to ask for those referrals? Like, where does that fit into just the way that you operate?
The simple answer to that is all the time. Everybody should always be asking for referrals. I've talked to hundreds of salespeople, and a lot of people don't even ask for them. I saw a stat the other day. It's like 11% of people ask for referrals. 71% of people are actually willing to give a referral. So I ask on just about every single call I have is, who else in your network might be able to leverage a solution like this? And would you mind putting me in touch with that person?
Nice, easy enough. And you answered the question I was going to ask. I was going to say, just give us an example. What does that sound like? It's obviously not hard. It's not rocket science. You just have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't need to be afraid to do it. People are willing to help you and willing to give out referrals. All you got to do is ask. It's very simple.
Love it. Awesome. So number 1, treat people like they have a 10 on their head. Number 2, leverage your network and the referrals. What's that number 3?
Number 3 would be making sure you're creating a win-win experience with the people that you're doing business with. You don't want to come off as the person that is feeling salesy at the end. It's what you're doing is providing a solution to a challenge that they have. So when it comes to the time where they're ready to sign, they are getting value out of what it is that you're selling. And of course, you're getting value back by earning a new customer. So having that experience where everybody wins at the end, and that way you're not screwing over somebody that could potentially be giving you referrals down the road, somebody that might buy from you again if they ever get another job. So creating that win-win experience for everybody, making sure that everybody leaves and walks away with a smile on their face.
Yeah. Now, how do you balance that with, I feel like a lot of people think that, but then they get all of this pressure because it's the end of the month or it's the end of the quarter and we're trying to bring everything in and all of this is happening and some of that goes out the window and it becomes your timeline, not theirs. How do you balance that conflict?
That's a great question. I think being transparent, right up front with the prospect and asking them to be transparent with you as well. Right at the very beginning of a sales cycle, it's always very good to create a mutual success plan. Hey, if we're going to be working together and you're genuinely interested, let's hold each other accountable and make a plan for us to do business together. That way, on this date, I can hold you accountable to something, and you can hold me to accountable other things as well. So making sure that everybody's mutually agreed to want to do business together and being transparent along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly something that's come up a lot on this show in previous episodes about having a really good close plan or joint execution plan or whatever you want to call it. I think that's really valuable. So, Kevin, for those who aren't familiar with SalesLoft, tell us just a little bit about your solution and who you're selling to in your territory.
Yes, so SalesLoft is a cloud-based sales engagement platform. What it does is help automate a lot of the follow-up tasks that are very menial for sales reps. And we're selling to sales organizations all over the world, from small startups to huge organizations in the top, Fortune 10. So anybody that has some sort of process in the way that they're engaging in a sincere and authentic way with their potential buyers and customers, then SalesLoft could be a potential fit those organizations.
Perfect. And what is your territory specifically? Who are you calling on?
So I work with our enterprise team, and we focus on organizations. For my team specifically, is organizations that have more than 1,500 employees, and my territory is planet Earth.
That's a big one.
I'm lucky enough to be able to do business anywhere, and I was actually one of my goals a couple years ago is to close a deal in 3 different continents, and I'm now up to 6, which has been pretty cool.
That's impressive. So does that help you or hurt you? I find that sometimes having such a big territory can make it hard to focus, and you get sort of pulled in a lot of different directions, especially from a travel perspective and things like that.
Yeah, well, fair point. I think the technology out there today, I do a lot of stuff over video today rather than going on site with prospects. I'm still going on site with prospects, absolutely, but being able to do a video call with Ireland at 8 a.m. Pacific time in California is much better than flying across the world for a 2-hour meeting.
Agreed. Although an excuse to visit Ireland might be okay.
That's true. But you're right. It is tough, and it's you really have to focus on prioritizing your time. And as a salesperson that operates all over the world, you got to be up early, and you've got to be mobile in the evening. I had something come in from Tel Aviv last night at about 10 p.m. and I had to address it immediately. So it's always being on and making sure that you're giving that love to your potential customers and letting them know that you're genuinely interested in earning their business.
Yeah, nice. And we'll definitely come back to kind of how you're structuring your day and dealing with some of those demands. But let's start at the beginning first. I mean, how did you get into sales in the first place?
This is a fun story I like to tell because I've been in sales what feels like my entire life. And I'm sure that you've been driving around a neighborhood and you've seen those little kids out there selling lemonade, right? They've got their lemonade stands. Well, when I think it was probably 6 or 7 years old, I wasn't the kid that was sitting at the lemonade stand. I was the kid that was actually selling lemons to those kids that had the lemonade stands around my neighborhood.
That's awesome. Love it.
Since I can remember, I've been in sales, and I saw that there was an opportunity for me. Lucky enough, my mom is in the catering business, and she would go to the store a couple times a week to get all of her food and supplies, and she would drag me along, and I would be able to go and spend my extra couple dollars on lemons. And so I had to, my mule to get me to and from the store at 6 years old. And my mom was great. She helped me pick out the right lemons and do all that. So it's been a lot of fun. Going from slinging lemons to slinging software. Yeah. So from lemons to lemonade sellers to sales tools to sales professionals, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what about where did the journey begin in more of a professional kind of sales capacity? Yeah. So when I graduated college in December of 2009, I graduated with a degree
in commercial real estate. And for those that might not be familiar, December of 2009 was probably the worst time to ever get into real estate. It's when the market took a big dump a couple years ago. And I was kind of stranded with, oh, well, I just studied for 4.5 years to get into real estate. What do I do now? And a buddy of mine recruited me and got me into the IT staffing business. So I was a recruiter for a couple of months and then got promoted into account management, where I was more on the sales side of things. And that's where I really fell in love with helping people. As a salesperson, my end goal is to make sure, again, it's a win-win scenario. So the staffing business, I was helping people get jobs. I was changing people's lives. And it was really impactful for me. And I was there for 3.5 years before I came over to SalesLoft.
Excellent. And what was the trigger for SalesLoft? I mean, you must have been relatively early in SalesLoft.
Exactly right. I was actually the 16th employee at SalesLoft, and I was very happy at Ronstadt, and SalesLoft approached me. I'd known Kyle Porter, our CEO, for a long time, and they approached me and said, Kevin, we know that you're in sales right now. You're picking up the phone. You're being very persistent and following up with your prospects. And we've got this idea. He actually showed it to me on a napkin. We've got this idea of being able to automate some of those follow-up tasks that you're spending your time doing, or writing on Post-it notes, or logging into your CRM. We want to automate that piece for you so you can be more efficient. And immediately I was in love, because that helped solve the challenges I had as a salesperson of making sure that I was following up with my prospects that I wanted to sell to. And I was that guy that was awful at logging things into my CRM. My boss hated it. I was good at getting my things done, but not so good at the menial tasks of logging activities, logging follow-ups, sticking to that plan. And SalesLoft solved that pain for me, and I got so excited about that opportunity of that pain being solved for me. I was like, I can take this to other salespeople where I know they have the exact same problems I've had in the past, and that allows me to go in and help provide a solution to challenges that I know are scattered all over the world. And after that meeting, where I was pitched on a napkin of this idea, I went and quit my job at a multi-billion-dollar organization to come be the 16th person over at SalesLoft.
That's awesome. And I struggle to understand how it is that as a top sales professional, you would have issues entering data into CRM. That's really, really unusual.
It's boggling, right? Unbelievable. Everybody loves to log activities into their CRM.
Yeah, I mean that's what I live for. That's why that's why I have this job. So
they pay us the big bucks is to do the admin work.
That's right. So Kevin, before we talk about your performance and results, I want to thank the exclusive sponsor of this episode, and that is Vidyard GoVideo. So thanks to Vidyard GoVideo, the rest of this episode will be completely uninterrupted, and I hope you'll help me thank them and help yourself in the process by getting their free Chrome plugin that allows you to create personalized videos that you can include in your email outreach to really stand out and get significantly higher response rates. Just go to top1.fm/V, that's the letter V, or go to any page on top1.fm and click on their ad. So Kevin, tell us about your results. I mean, what does it mean to have been the account executive of the year for the last 2 years?
Well, it means a lot. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I think that when I'm on the phone with customers and prospects, the passion oozes out of me. You can hear it across the phone, because I absolutely love sales, and I want to be the most effective seller. And so at the end of the day, it's being more consultative, and I feel like an educator at the end of the day, sharing stories of what I've heard other modern sales organizations do to be successful, and reciprocating those back and helping others learn. And I think that's kind of helped play a big part in being successful in my role, is just being a person that wants to help rather than as not a sneaky sales guy, but just sales versus a consultant.
Yeah, absolutely. And from a quantified perspective, I mean, what did it take to be number one the last couple of years?
In what regard?
Well, how much did you sell?
I think I did just over $1 million in revenue per year the last couple of years. And I just closed my 590th deal with the company, and just over $3 million in business over the last 3 years. So you can see it's not a very expensive solution, so it takes a lot of conversations to have to close a lot of deals to hit that $1 million mark. So a lot of persistence and a lot of referrals along the way as well that have absolutely helped me be successful.
Nice. Now, when it comes to those referrals, I mean, how long do you stay with an account? I mean, once the deal's done, do you hand it over to a client success type team? Like, how do you make that work once they've been successful with SalesLoft?
Yeah, great question. We absolutely do have an implementation team and a client success team, and a lot of what we do I couldn't do without our awesome success team here at SalesLoft. And you're right. So once I do close the deal, I get them introduced to our implementations team. They're going to walk them through the training, making sure everybody's familiar with the solution. And then every once in a while, I'll go and check in just to think outside of the blue and just say, hey, I was just thinking about you today. Read this post that was aligned on some of the goals that you had shared with me 6 months ago, 3 months ago, whatever. And just wanted to check in with you, see how everything's going. Hey, by the way, is there anybody else in your network that might want to leverage SalesLoft? And it's a perfect time, check in, doing due diligence. At the same time, again, I'm always asking for referrals.
Yeah, perfect. So what percentage of your deals then come from that referral? Because you've obviously got a really great SDR team. And in fact, we interviewed your top SDR at the time. Of course, she's moved on to an AE role in Angela Kirkland at the time. She's upgraded her last name on me since then, but we'll certainly put a link to that if you go to the show notes page on top1.fm. But what percentage, how is that sort of lining up in terms of what you're seeing ultimately close?
I would say maybe 35% of the deals I'm closing are coming from referrals, or I have managed to get a referral in there. Maybe an SDR might set me up with an account. I'll look into it and see that I'm somehow connected to that account, and then leverage my network to get referrals once that SDR has already set it up. So it's almost like we're hitting it from two different angles.
Nice. Excellent. So tell us the story of a deal, whether it was a particularly meaningful deal or one that was impactful in just the way that you approach things. Do you have a good example for us?
One of my favorites is an SDR. It was a perfect example from what I was just saying. An SDR had set up a demo for us, and I had a great conversation with the guy. He was, a director of worldwide sales for an organization that had 5,000 people. So this guy's very limited time. He gave us 30 minutes. We had a great conversation. He says, you know what, I want you to connect with, this other guy that would help run this project, and I want to put you in touch with them, a name I had never heard before. So I go naturally look him up on LinkedIn, and he's connected to my old boss over at Ronstadt, where I was before SalesLoft. And luckily, I like to treat everybody and put a 10. I have a great relationship with my old boss, even though that I, left that organization for a new opportunity. So I reached out to him and said, hey, how do you know this guy? And he called me immediately. How in the world did you just make that? He's like, that's my best friend from college. He's like, let me reach out to him right now and put you in touch. So while that was happening, the other guy put me in touch with this gentleman, and he replied back, he's like, I'll give you 15 minutes. That's kind of a push-off answer, right? 15 minutes, it's really hard to even do a little bit of discovery in 15 minutes, and especially even create rapport. And while all that was happening, my old boss had reached out to him. He replied to that email before I could even reply to 15 minutes and said, Kevin, you just earned yourself an hour. So
that changes the game a little bit.
Network, yeah, because of my network and because of the way that I've created these relationships and have created positive experiences for people I've worked with and worked for, I was able to move from 15 minutes to an hour to get this guy's attention. And he looped in 15 other people along the way on his end that he probably never would have even given me the time of day for. And it's funny, I'm actually wearing a watch on my wrist right now that boss that I reached out to gave me, and that's what started the conversation with him and his old college buddy. We got on a video call. I said, "Hey, look at this watch. This is from Steve," and he thought it was fantastic. It was he gave me this watch as a gift of hitting a goal that him and I had set. That was the first time I ever made six figures. He gave me this watch. I wear it every single day.
Love it. See, I like asking about stories. They mean something. That's a great one. So, Kevin, what about the flip side? What do you find either kind of most challenging in sales today, or was there a time where you were just challenged, right? Where you were struggling, whether it was a SalesLoft or a previous opportunity?
I think what was really tough for me was leaving my old job and taking this huge risk for this little startup that didn't really have too much revenue. They had a brand, but I was leaving a multi-billion-dollar organization where I was a top producer there, and really had no reason to leave. And that was my family, my old job. I spent a lot of time with those people, and those were some of my best friends. And I was wearing a watch that my boss had given me on my wrist. That he was like as a mentor to me, and that making that decision to leave that organization where I was a top producer, take that risk to come to SalesLoft, and really have to roll the dice. It was a really, really tough decision, just to kind of on a whim say, okay, we're gonna go for something that's very solidified. I know exactly I've got a great base. I'm making great money. I actually took a smaller base when I came over to SalesLoft, substantially smaller, but it ended up paying off in the long run. And I'm glad I made that decision, but it was very, very challenging to do so.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more, because I think that is a place that many people are faced with. And I was just at a conference this week catching up with some old friends about, how they got their starts in sales, and how too often you kind of get into a position where, like, congratulations, you're in sales. Here's the phone book, or here's a list of companies. Like, go figure that out. Did you get a decent amount of training in that original job with the larger organization?
Training as far as like
sales training.
Sales training. It was at that job. It was a lot of kind of figure it out on your own. Like what works for you. There was a little bit of training here and there, but nothing like solidified, like a Sandler training that Salesforce does, or any types of real sales methodology training. It was very kind of learn as you go. If you fail, you can find something else, and if you do well, they want you to talk about why you do well and what got you there.
And I wonder, do you feel like you could have had the same level of success if SalesLoft was your first opportunity?
I think I brought a lot of the sales demeanor to the role, and I came from, I was wearing suits every day at my old job, and it was. And then when I started SalesLoft, I was wearing flip-flops and shorts and T-shirts, and it was a big change. They actually put in my offer letter at SalesLoft that I'm not allowed to wear suits to the office. And I think my time at Randstad really did prepare me and give me the grit of sales to know that it's okay to fail. You're going to fail in sales. It's 100%. Everybody is. You can't close every deal. Not everybody picks up the phone every single time. So it really kind of gave me that opportunity to know, hey, I'm going to come into this, and I'm not going to be, 100. I'm not going to bat 1,000. So I think, that transition and having gone right from college to SalesLoft, maybe I wouldn't have done it as well as I have today.
Yeah. It's just been something I've been pondering of late. I feel like one of the best paths and the folks that I look at that seem to have the most success over time, that first sales job is often with a much larger organization where they get some type of real sales training, and it gives them a good foundation and some good framework to then kind of move off from, because it's really hard to move into, I mean, especially in the startup space, right? You're moving into a new type of role, a new type of industry. You've got to invent everything, and while they're inventing the product, oftentimes. So it's an interesting thing to kind of think through and think about, and creates a lot of challenge for us in the sales role. And actually, something I think we're going to build a panel around when we do that Sales Success Summit is just talk about careers and how do you progress through this and how do you make some of these decisions. So that's all good stuff. So let's talk about your routines and how you're structuring your day and your week and things like that. So first off, are you more of a morning person or are you a night owl, Kevin?
I've got to be a morning person. So SalesLoft is headquartered in Atlanta. I spend most of my time in California. So if I'm up at 6, it's already 9 a.m. Atlanta time. And the emails and the calls start coming through early. So I've got to be a morning person. And at the same time, I also have to be a night owl as well, because I'm doing business all over the world. But I think I like to get my day started off right. I do a lot of yoga, and starting my day or even ending my day with my yoga routine is very, very rewarding for me. So you have an intent of each class. Every time you hit your yoga mat, it's just you and your mat, and you're going to let everything else go. And it's a great way to really kick your day off right and get your mind ready and set for the day. So that's one thing that I'd like to spend a lot of time on, is making sure that I have 1 hour a day where I completely turn off and it's just me and my mind and my body for 1 hour.
Now, are you going and taking a class for that, or is that you do a video or some other way?
Yeah, I go to a studio, and there's other people in there with us. We got an instructor. It's fantastic. And you can also do this stuff from home too. They've got great videos online for those that don't want to go to a yoga studio. Just do it from home and really just kind of have that time to yourself, whether you're doing something physical activity or just that 1 hour a day where I can really focus on my day, what my surroundings, and kind of let all of it go, all the stress from sales, everything. It's very, very rewarding.
Nice. So walk us through kind of the structure of the rest of the day. How does that play out?
So in sales, it's, almost every day is different, right? But it's very structured from wake up, breakfast, read the news or read, the blog posts that I subscribe to, and make sure I'm checking the emails first, and then from there it's go time, and that's when I start getting on the phone. I like to do calls early in the morning. After my coffee, I'm energetic, I'm enthusiastic, and I'm just out of yoga, and it's perfect time for me to be at the top of my game is early on in the morning.
Awesome. So what happens from there? I mean, is the afternoon just the appointments that get kind of set in the mornings and previous mornings, or how does that work?
Yeah. So the afternoon, I like to prep for my next day. So usually every day around 2:00, I think about, okay, what did I have on the books today, or what do I still have, later on today, and what do I have on the calendar tomorrow? Let's start thinking about, all right, let's look up some of these accounts. How am I connected to some of these accounts? Do I need to be reaching out to people in my network to get some of those referrals in to help supercharge those conversations I'm going to have tomorrow? That's a lot of prep a day early for what I've got going on, and how can I help myself, and how can I have my network help me to make sure that I'm going to be successful tomorrow.
So it sounds like one of the core tools, and I'm interested in hearing what else you might use, but it sounds like there's a lot of LinkedIn going on.
Yeah, I use LinkedIn a good bit, and very exciting. We just announced a partnership with LinkedIn. So now LinkedIn lives right inside of SalesLoft. So I'll leverage SalesLoft, pull it up, and I've got access to LinkedIn right there, which has been great.
Fantastic. Any other kind of core routines and things that you do that are core to your performance? Smile
a lot. Everybody's heard that, smile and dial, but it really is impactful. It's part of my routine. Make sure I'm smiling all day long. I'm a very positive person. Even if something, shits the bed, the deal doesn't go the way I want, you always got to think of it in an optimistic way. How could I learn from this so I know it doesn't happen again? So that routine is make sure you're always in a positive attitude, that positivity is contagious, and other people in your office will feel it. They'll receive some of that positive energy, and your customers, your buyers will also receive that positive energy when you're smiling through the phone and when you're getting excited. So that's, I guess part of my routine is smiling all day long. I love it.
Nice. And how are you manufacturing that? I mean, what's driving the positivity and motivation for you in general?
It kind of goes back to putting a 10 on everybody's head, trying to find something that I can relate to when I'm having a conversation that, that will make that person's eyes pop up, or, hey, oh yeah, I've connected to this person, or, oh, I used to live in this town, and just really kind of letting them talk and share a positive experience to me, and they start the positive experience, and it gets me smiling. We, by the end of our call, we've built rapport for the first 20 minutes, and we're friends, and we're connected, and we're networking together.
So just a good virtuous circle, right? You're kind of playing into it, and then it comes back.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice. What about your information diet? I mean, what are you listening, watching, and reading?
I mentioned Ralph Barcy earlier. He's the one that taught me about putting a 10 on everybody's head. I highly recommend his blog post, ralphbarcy.com, BARSI. Absolutely fantastic content. He's a thought leader in the space, as a mentor to me, and really just clear-minded on sales process, sales methodology, being the most effective, building your own brand for yourself. And so I would say that's my number one. David Cummings also has some great content as well, davidcummings.org. Follow his blog. He puts out a blog. I think he's been doing it consecutively for like 3 years. He puts out a blog post every single day. And what that means, it's not going to be the longest blog post, which is great, because as salespeople, we can't sit still, like you mentioned earlier. And I just a really short little quip. It might be 2 paragraphs. So I love reading David's content. It's quick, it's easy to read, and it's relevant. So David and Ralph are 2 of my favorites that I like to read on a daily basis.
Awesome. And we will put links to all of the stuff that Kevin mentioned. So just go to top1.fm/Kevin. I don't think I've had another Kevin on, so I think that'll work. We'll have that linked up so you can get to it real easily. So Kevin, we talked about LinkedIn a little bit, but what about other kind of tools and apps? What are you using most frequently throughout your day, professionally or even personally?
Yeah, my favorite, I guess it's an app, it's on my computer, for professionally, is an app called Atext. It's a text expander. So in sales, I'm sure a lot of people listening can, I guess, equate to this. You end up typing the same sentences over and over and over. And what Atext does is allow you to put in an abbreviation, and it'll populate that sentence for you. So even as something as simple as the word SalesLoft, I type that word a lot. So if I type in SLS on my keyboard, it types up the word SalesLoft for me. It's capitalized already. And even something like cheers, Kevin, I just type in CK. And it makes me so much more efficient, because I don't have to sit there and type in cheers, comma, enter, Kevin. I just hammer right through it. And I've got some that are like 3-4 paragraphs long of Atext, and I'll go in there and edit it. But I probably have hundreds of these Atext saved on my computer, and it's absolutely fantastic. I couldn't live without that app.
That is a good one. You got any more?
One of my others, for those using Gmail for their email, is the short keys and like the hot key commands in Gmail. They will make you 10 times more efficient. I can get through 40 emails without lifting my hands off my keyboard, from sending to archiving to going to the next to marking unread or marking read, replying. All of that is done in my Gmail short commands, and it is absolutely fantastic. It'll an hour a day, easy, will save you just from menial tasks of clicking around inside of your inbox all day. You have to think about the things that you don't know that take you a lot of time, like typing the same sentence, or putting your hand on your mouse and going up and hitting back to your inbox and then opening up the next email. Those little seconds, you can get all of that back by being a little bit more educated and a little bit more strategic in the way that you're getting through your inbox, or saying that same sentence in realizing that and adding that A text in. So I would say short keys in Gmail, A text, and then Speedy Ready is another app that I use. It's great for reading blog posts. You highlight the text, you hit enter twice, and it allows you to read at, I think I have mine set at 350 words per minute. That way I don't have to read down. It reads it pretty much for me at 350 words a minute. It's a great app as well.
Now, when you say reads it for you, it does the scrolling for you, or what do you mean by that?
Pretty much. It puts a little bar at the top, and it'll put the word in, so you don't actually have to move your eyes. It just will flash the word up to you on the screen, and it just blows through these words, and somehow you can still really get in there and like absorb these words because they're coming in. You don't have to move your eyes on the page. It's really clever. It's free. I absolutely love it.
That is fascinating. All right, cool. So we are linking all of that up, and I will find some type of tutorial or at least a list of those Gmail short keys or hotkeys so that you can use that. So Kevin, I'm curious. I mean, it doesn't sound like you had any formal sales training in your process. Is there a particular like sales philosophy that you subscribe to?
Jocko. I don't know. Are you familiar with
Willing?
Jocko? Jocko Vanderkooj.
Oh, this is a different Jocko. Okay. No,
yeah,
I don't know that.
Sales expert. He's done a little sales training for us here at SalesLoft. He came to our sales kickoff earlier this year and really kind of gave us some methodologies. And he actually had a great tweet the other day that's kind of top of mind of like the two different types of salespeople out there. One is going to give you the sales pitch, and one's going to try to be competitive and do a hard close and negotiate really hard with you. And the other person's going to more have a conversation with you, really try to diagnose that pain that someone might be challenged with. And really, like I was saying, educate, share other experiences and like really assist somebody in the buying process and, trade, give and take. Okay. We're not negotiating. We're doing a give and take here. If you need this, okay, then I'll take this on as we're getting through this proposal, and then committing to each other in that mutual success plan. So there's two types of people, and I love to be that more consultative type person where, hey, we're just having a conversation here. I'm not pitching on anything. I'm just trying to help diagnose something that you're challenged with and see if I can provide a solution for it.
Is there a way that you try and set that up at all? I mean, I think it becomes clear and apparent from a kind of customer experience perspective, right? That's the kind of person you are, and that's the approach you're taking. Because when you're taking the stereotypical sales approach, I mean, everybody can smell that from a mile away. But is there a way that you are trying to frame that consultative approach from the beginning to get people to kind of buy in and participate in it so that they maybe take down their defenses a little bit? Yeah,
I think, and what I like to do at the very beginning of calls is you spend the first couple minutes is building rapport. And in doing that, like in order to earn someone's trust, I found it's great to share something about me at the very beginning of the call. What am I doing this weekend, or something not business related. So a personal something. Hey, I was just having a conversation, about this movie that we were talking about going to see, and it really just kind of helps put that guard down. Like, oh, hey, we're chit chatting back and forth here. We're not, super structured, mandated process of okay, we're going to do this and this and this, and I'll get to that agenda and I'll propose an agenda and ask if that's okay with them. But really, just building that rapport and seeing if you can find some of those connections along the way. Oh, hey, you're a golfer? Oh, that's awesome. I played golf last week, playing Pebble in 2 weeks. It's small things like that, and really helps remove that guard. And that way you're being yourself and you're being more natural, just like you're with your significant other. The reason, people get married is because they marry somebody that they can be themselves with, not someone that is, I guess, not human, right? Not intentional.
Yeah.
You don't want to be this fake person. You want to be who you are, and letting your prospects know right off the bat, hey, I'm just a normal guy. I just want to chat. It helps really remove that guard.
Yeah. So speaking of not human, I want to go on like a giant tangent here, and I think you're the perfect person to talk to about this because it's something that I think about a lot. So, and let's kind of geek out on sales automation. I'm pretty sure that I've even said on this show before that, a lot of these tools like SalesLoft, I feel like they can be used for good or they can be used for evil. And there's a lot of, evil examples that seem to get posted to LinkedIn these days. But what's your perspective? I mean, what's the right way to be thinking about all of these sales technologies as an AE or as an SDR?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Good and evil. There's two different ways to leverage a sales engagement tool. You can try to boil the ocean and say, all right, I want to send an email to 1,000 people, and it's going to be an email that's me generated. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is, and this is why you should be talking to me. That's a very me focused email. And I think a lot of that is what you're seeing getting posted on LinkedIn, people, bashing, bad sales emails because there's no, like you mentioned, human to it. It's a robot going through that. And by leveraging a solution like SalesLoft or any sales engagement platform the right way, you have to have that human element. You have to be authentic in the way that you're engaging. That email needs to be about them. It needs to be about how you understand their business and how you understand that they might have some challenges that you might be able to help with and that you want to earn their business, not just, hey, you should do business with me because I'm sending you a templated email. You really have to be sincere in the way that you're engaging and make that engagement about them and how they can better off by having a conversation with you.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, I guess it was HubSpot that was asking for kind of quotes, and they're looking at, it's that time of year where we have to start thinking about sales trends for the next year. And I talked about, I think that the pendulum is really going to start to swing back. If we've been moving in the direction of automation and scale and AI and all of this stuff lately, I think that there's going to be motion in the other direction of more human solutions, right? And it's one of the reasons why I love the Vidyard GoVideo tool so much is there's nothing more human than me with your name on a whiteboard. Like, this is about you. I'm talking to you. I'm a real person. You're not one of 82,000 people that just got this same email. And I think, the tools that are out there, and SalesLoft, again, is a great example of this. You can use it to do that. It can enable that and empower that and make you more human. It's just a strong way to sort of augment what you're doing and make you better at it or more consistent about it or things along those lines.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I'm a huge fan of Vidyard. They are doing just a fantastic job by that humanizing that element. Hey, I'm going to sift through all the rest of that junk in your inbox. I'm going to send you, like you said, a video with, you holding that whiteboard. It's so impactful because you really stand apart from all of the other mess in their inbox. And people are genuinely more interested. I had a prospect tell me the other day, they would rather spend a minute watching a video that's personalized to them than 40 seconds reading an email. So they'd rather spend more time with something that's more engaging and more beneficial to them. So I absolutely huge fan of Vidyard. SalesLoft actually has a Vidyard integration for their freemium version, and they are absolutely fantastic. Love them over there. Great company.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I think that is interesting and that we have to be mindful about, I make a point of asking when I'm spending time with my the marketing executives and the C-level folks in my network, I always ask them, particularly in the marketing space, which I think is probably it feels to me like one of the most saturated places in the world, because there's literally thousands of tools out there. So if you're a VP of marketing or you're a CMO, like, you're screwed. I don't know how they operate with the amount of salespeople reaching out to them. And I ask them, so what do you actually respond to? Like, how do you deal with this? And was talking with one of those individuals just recently, and I've seen this sort of validated in some other things here recently. He's like, yeah, you know what, the first message, like as soon as I can tell that this is generic, not personalized, I got loaded into some type of a spam cannon, he says, I take a second and I create a rule that's going to make sure that I never see messages from that individual or that company ever again.
You're spot on. And so that this rep is actually doing a disservice by sending sending those fully automated emails. They're going backwards. They're burning bridges because they're not being authentic in the way that they're engaging. And yeah, that's to your point. Those marketing folks, I'm glad I'm not in marketing because they just get bombarded all day, every day, and really got to do something to make it through that. So you're not getting tagged as, hey, never ever reply to somebody from this organization, because they're just trying to fully automate the sales process. And going back to the evils of some of these tools, these tools aren't built for reps to just dump in 1,000 people, put their feet up, and casually check for replies every couple of hours. It's meant for automating the menial tasks of what I struggle with, of logging those things into your CRM, or making sure that you're being persistent and following up, but still doing it in an authentic way, customizing that message and not just fully automating the entire sales process, because that's just only going to do you a disservice.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we're still going to have to work. But the good news is, as long as that's the case, then your job doesn't get replaced by computers. Although, I keep joking. I'm like, you know what? That has got to be so far away, because I won't say its name. I'll call it my Amazon Echo. I ask it to do the same thing every single morning, and it gets it right about 70% of the time. And I'm like, okay. And until this, it should just know, oh, it hears me coming downstairs. Like, do the thing I ask you to do. This is not rocket science. So I don't think our jobs are going away anytime soon, but I think we do need to be moving in that direction. So, along those lines, Kevin, is there something that you believe or that you do that the average sales rep would think is crazy?
I ask for referrals. A lot of sales reps might think that's crazy. That's a tough question. I think a lot of times I say what I'm going to do and I do what I'm going to say. And so if I tell you I'm going to do something, you can then count on me. You can trust me that I'm going to deliver on what it is that we talked about and what I committed to bring back to you. I don't know if reps would think that's crazy. That's a pretty standard thing to do in sales, but a lot of times be like, oh yeah, I'll send you that. And then, you forget about it, and they never hear back from you. And then you kind of lose that trust. And maybe that person doesn't want to work with you now because you didn't do what you said.
Yeah. Do you have a system for tracking those kinds of commitments just to make sure that you do follow up on them?
Yeah, I use like in the opportunity, like I'll take a note and say I need to send them as a follow up. I need to send these 3 things, and then my next steps, it'll say make sure I'm sending these out. And then when I go back into talk to them again, I double check, have I sent these 3 things out? Other than really Salesforce, not too much to really like a systematic process that I've got.
Yeah.
Like a Trello board.
Yeah. So what about the flip side? Is there something that the average rep or like the current sales dogma says that you think is crazy?
I think like fully automating, like going back to that, like fully automating the sales process. You can't automate sales unless you've got like a website where, people come in and just buy it right off the site. Sales is not meant to be automated. Part that's automated is the menial things. You still have to be human in the way that you're engaging and really being sincere with how you're approaching and how you're speaking to and mirroring the way that people are talking to you, and get them to start mirroring the way that you're speaking with them as well. I think that's also extremely important. A lot of times I've heard that you should mirror the energy that they have, But if they're low energy and you're high energy, you might want to get them to pick up their energy and start getting excited about what you're talking about. And what a better way to do that than being the one that's excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So this is, I like to think of this is like the soapbox section of the website where I let you kind of impart some advice based on your experience. So what advice would you have for somebody that's just getting started in sales today to set a really great foundation for themselves and to have a lot of success through their career?
One thing that I did early on at SalesLoft, it was probably like my second or third day at SalesLoft, I created a Google Doc and started writing down my goals, professional goals, personal goals, and even down to yesterday, I had that document open and I was looking through it, and it's an ongoing list from 2014. I've got 3 years of goals. When I complete one of those goals, I check it off. And it is so rewarding to be able to check off that goal that I put on there 6 months ago. And sometimes it's a really small goal. Close a deal in Europe. Yeah, that's a small goal, but it's a goal, and checking it off is great. So I was looking through my goal list last night and seeing 200-ish goals that are strike through and colored green, meaning I've successfully accomplished these goals. Maybe I would have forgotten about those goals if I didn't write them down. So I think like writing down your goals and keeping an ongoing list and holding yourself accountable to accomplishing those goals. And if you don't, and if you fail, check it off in red. And that way you can know, okay, why didn't I successfully accomplish this goal? And I had some in there that were personal around, I wanted to lower my golf handicap. I wanted to invest in the car of my dreams. And lo and behold, I've got now those goals checked off on my list because I wrote them down and I held myself accountable. So I think for people that are new in sales, and I've done this with people that I've mentored that have started fresh right out of college at SalesLoft, that's the first thing I tell them is let's talk about your goals. Let's write them down. Let's create a document together, and let's do this together.
Nice. And I think a really important part that you talked about is you actually go back and look at that list. So how often are you doing that? How often are you in that goal doc?
Once a month, probably. So that's the last 36 months, once a month or so. Sometimes I'll check it a couple times a week. And especially if I go and, complete one of those goals, one of my objectives, it's so exciting to go pull up that goal list and I see others that I added in there. I'm like, oh yeah, these are other goals I have. And let's think about some more. How can I add to this? And constantly giving myself new goals, new ambitions to go and succeed and continue to succeed. One of my goals on the list is be a top producer at SalesLoft, become the account executive of the year. Checked off. It's great. It's so rewarding to be able to go and do that.
Yeah. Now, what about for somebody who is a little bit further into their career, right? So they're having some success, but they're not the number one rep. What advice do you have for them to take their game to the next level?
Read lots of books. I think, especially for a little bit more tenured people, they know the sales processes, and there's so many great books out there that it can really have a huge impact and change the way that you operate deal cycles.
All right. So you just opened Pandora's box there. I'm going to put my team to work in finding a whole bunch of book links. So give us your top 2 or 3. Where should they start? What have been the most impactful books for you in your career?
One that I've really enjoyed is, let's see, which one should I give you? The Power of Habit is a fantastic book. Really kind of, it's great it's not like a sales self-help book. It tells a bunch of stories, but it talks about how you, by creating small habits, they can compound and have humongous impacts down the road. That's by far one of my favorites. Another one, which is a kind of a funny book. It'll make you laugh out loud. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Excuse my language.
You were just quoting a title. I understand. That book is hilarious.
It's a fantastic book. And for those that are looking for more sales focused books, Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt is a fantastic one. That was actually referred to me by the gentleman I referenced earlier that I got in touch with about having the watch on my wrist. He connected. I asked him, how are you coaching your team? And he says, everybody on my team reads Fanatical Prospecting. So I went and got myself a copy, read it. It's amazing. It's talking about prospecting is a never ending thing. You're always networking. You're always looking for, ways to connect dots and how you can help others that can eventually maybe turn around. They can end up helping you one day. So it's like, it's just a fantastic book of really being focused on not being the golden retriever that's chasing the ball, but being more the focus that's like being a better person that will inevitably the business will come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great list. So I'm interested in what would you want to know about or learn from the AE of the year from other organizations?
I'd like to know about what kind of relationships they have internally at their company. Does that play a big card in their success? Are they just a lone ranger? They just hang out and they're just fantastic at sales? That's possible. But what about like the other people that are involved in deal cycles at their organization? Sometimes you need to get sales engineers involved and actual engineers and people from marketing and sales operations to help you win this deal. Do they have relationships internally, and do they strive to build relationships and meet new people? That would be something I would be curious to learn.
And I mean, what's your approach to that? Obviously, it's a part of who you are and what your process is.
I think it's extremely important. When SalesLoft was growing again, I was the 16th employee. When we got to 50 employees, I was thinking to myself, I was like, wow, we're at 50 employees. I could have lunch with a different person at my company once a week, every day for a year, or every week for a year. I started thinking, I was like, all right, I'm going to start doing this. So I sent out a doc, hey, sign up. I'm going to take somebody to lunch every Wednesday, a different person. And doing that was probably one of the best decisions I ever did. In sales, you kind of get stuck in your little sales silo, in your corner, with your sales team. You talk to the sales team. Well, I wanted to know more about other people in my organization. Taking an engineer out to lunch, somebody that would typically not reach out to you to have a conversation, to have lunch with. And I've made more great relationships by doing that over the last 3 years than I could ever imagine. And it's really helped, especially when I'm in a deal cycle. I have a very unique question. I can go to one of these people that I've now known for 3 years that maybe other people on the sales team don't know them that well. And I can go and ask, hey, here's a really technical question. How would you answer this? Or what would be our answer from an infrastructure perspective? And, since we have that relationship, they're really always more than willing to help. So it's been very impactful for me. And I love getting to know other people, especially outside of the sales world, and learning about them. Not even talking about work, talking about how they got to SalesLoft, or where'd they come from, when they grew up, what did they do, what do they do outside of work. It's been awesome to be able to be part of that culture and be involved in people's lives outside of just the sales team.
That's huge. And I think at some level, sure, you can be the lone wolf and you can try and take this all on your shoulders and you can go do it. But when you get to a certain point, and I'm thinking of my interview with Trong Nguyen, who was managing a $50 million book of business for Microsoft. He's like, you can't begin to do that by yourself. And it takes a lot of other people, and those relationships are really important. And it reminds me of literally the best thing I've ever read on networking in my career, and I've read a fair amount about networking for a variety of reasons. There was a Harvard Business Review article, and again, we'll find the link for this, and we'll put it up at top1.fm/Kevin. I'm pretty sure the article is called Better Sales Networks. And what it talked about is, I think what people think about when it comes to a valuable sales network is the network that they have in their market, right? Because I need to be able to open doors and create opportunities. So hopefully I know some executives and I know people that can help me get into those opportunities. And yes, that's great. That's important. That's one of, and they had 3 or 4 different aspects. But to your point, it was also heavily about the network that you had inside your organization, because those are the people that help you get deals and kind of answer the harder objections and challenges that you may not know the answer to, and they help you fulfill the deals, right? So if I made a commitment to this client that, this is what you're buying, this is what you're signing up for, and then we're delivering on that, and there's a challenge along the way, because that happens, then you have the network, you have the resources to be able to go and find the person in the organization who can help you fix that and get through that challenge and make good on your commitment that you made to that client, which, hey, all of a sudden now I'm getting tons of referrals, and this person will do reference calls and everything else for me because I was able to do that and connect all of those dots. So incredible article that I would highly recommend, and shorter than a book. So if you don't want to read the subtle art of the rest of it, then that's a good place to start.
Awesome. I'd love to check that out.
Yeah. So, Kevin, who is the most successful salesperson that you know personally? And you can't talk about Kyle Porter and his napkin. This has to be somebody in an individual contributor kind of quota carrying role. Because I know that's where you would have gone.
Yeah, I probably would have led with him. I've before I go down that rabbit hole, he's been very impactful to my life and has changed it for the better. Anthony Zhang was one of my very first managers, and at SalesLoft, and he went and he's got a role of managing a new team, and I learned a lot from him. And he was one of the top first producers at SalesLoft, and he really showed me the ropes and taught me about empathy and really just understanding and caring about sales. And I watched him just blow his numbers out of the water, and he's been very impactful to me. Anthony Zhang, he's an awesome guy.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that, because I think there is a very, very consistent thread. In fact, it dawned on me the other day that I don't think I've had a single individual on this show, and we're north of 30 at this point. I don't think I've talked to anybody who is number one in their organization or top 1% despite their boss. It seems that everybody has a very productive, collaborative relationship with their leadership and their mentors. Talk about what that is for you, the impact that it's had, and kind of the importance of it.
Yeah, I think the ability to be transparent with your direct manager, and being able to trust that person is extremely important. So by being transparent, you can tell them you can trust them to understand that here's what I'm challenged with, and maybe we can work together and overcoming some of these objectives. And and being transparent, that they'll give that back to you. They'll tell you what they're struggling with, and maybe you can help them, and that way you're both growing and learning together. And being able to share something you're struggling with and trust that they'll take that and take it to the right people and get the right people involved, so we can come to a solution as a team together.
Love it. Love it. So as we're about to wrap up, I wonder, is there anything that I missed? Is there anything that you feel like is a key success ingredient that we haven't yet had a chance to talk about?
We talked a lot about network and the way that you're treating people. I think don't just hang up your hat at the end of the day. When you're working with your customers and prospects, one thing with putting the 10 on everybody's head, that's not just my professional life. That's my personal life as well. It's make sure that, really encompassing who you really are outside of work, to really hone in on your sales skills and practice them outside of the office as well.
Excellent. Cool. So the last thing we try and do is make this actionable, right? Tons of great ideas. If you've gotten to this point and you don't have at least one nugget, I don't know what we can do for you. So Kevin, if we could boil everything down, and create some type of a challenge, and given that we do new episodes every 2 weeks, let's think of this as something that can be done over the next 14 days. What would you have the person listening to this do to improve themselves and improve their results?
I would ask for folks to go out there and and see in the next 14 days if they can go get 2 referrals from people that they've worked with in the past, or maybe a LinkedIn recommendation. Build their brand and reach out to somebody that they know they've had a great working experience with, and ask them for referrals. That's for the 89% of the folks out there that are not asking for referrals. Those 11%, go ask for 2 more, and that already are.
Awesome. Easy enough. Go do it, folks. Kevin, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today and for being so open about what's working for you today in sales.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me on, Scott.
Yeah, and since we literally just started talking about it today, Kevin isn't yet confirmed for the Sales Success Summit, but there's a very high probability that by the time that this is done, you can go check out top1summit.com, and you'll probably see Kevin's headshot, and we'll kind of figure out the details there. But most importantly, I want to see you there. If you've been getting value from this podcast and these conversations, then you're going to love the program that we're putting together. And more importantly, the opportunity, just like Kevin is talking about, to actually spend time to build real relationships with sales superstars like Kevin. So give a listen to the Sales Success Summit episode to hear all about what we're putting together, and then jump straight over to top1summit.com, or you can always start on our main site at top1.fm and follow the link from there. All right. Thanks for listening, and hopefully I'll be seeing you here in Austin, May 7th and 8th.
Thanks for listening to the Sales Success Stories podcast. To be sure you never miss an episode, and for an invitation to our sales success community powered by Influitive, subscribe to our newsletter at top1.fm.